Unmute. Well, good afternoon. Dr. Contrast here live, and boy, am I ever glad we're back on the airspace, because yesterday was a bit of a difficulty. We had some little elements to take care of, which we have resolved now, which has worked out very well. New system for me, and I'll be the first one to admit I had some windows come up that I was not familiar with, so I had to wait back and make sure we had the right circumstances coming together, but it worked out very well. So good to have you back on board here today, folks, and hopefully those of you who are viewing here, my apologies for the delay yesterday, but we're going to pick up the speed here and get this thing moving here. After a few streams, a couple back, we started out with some educational pieces, and we did another empathy piece. But I went back and I did some volunteer work here in the last couple of days, and I noticed something in the design process that really kind of struck me as something that had to be reviewed. And I hope that's not going to find something this presentation today be elementary. But it's not. I mean, the whole title of this project today, the stream today, is very simple. The magic of what? Gesture. I'm really firmly convinced, for example, to go through especially the design process, we become so rigid and so calibrated and so fearful of making mistakes, we lose some of the charm or the dynamics of the things we're trying to perceive. The subject matter today, it's not a particular product, it's not a particular thing. It's a process, and I think that's one of the things that I noticed here working with these young people, that they were so terrified of laying down a line, it had to be perfect, scratch it through it. It was almost like weighty on shoulders, and absolutely no feedback whatsoever. So I'm going to spend some time today going through some very quick animated sketches that are gesturally. And the reason behind this is, and there's a method to the madness, the reason behind the gesture process is very simply this. If you think in terms of gesture, you're looking at mood, environment, atmosphere, and again, the most important part of it all, by being gesturally, there might be a line or a sequence in the sketch you put together that becomes a mistake, which eventually becomes a miracle. So you can use those gestures as a springboard for doing new and exciting shapes. So I'm going to go through a series of little thumbnail sketches here. And I'll be working with just a great pen, for example. It's a Winsor Newton fine liner. And what I love about this whole process is it's neat because the nib system does not collapse. Some of the other pens, for example, Pentels, after a period of time, the nib breaks down and it gets real mushy and you can't control the line weight stuff. So let me get started here, and I'm going to show you, and I want you to pay attention to how very rapidly I'm going to go through these sketches. And again, really focusing on what the gesture does and how we begin to utilize that. And maybe we'll pick a couple of them, put a little bit of marker or some copic marker to them. But let's start out here with just a couple of footprints here. Let's put a line down. Let's get that set. Let's come back and pick up just a gesture over the top of that. Let's go back in through here. Let's get that one form set up, just nice and easy, just nice and loose. There it is there. Let's come back in here off the back side of the shape. Let's pick that line up, and let's just go right back into that one. And let's kick this back a little bit. Let's do this with this and flare it out just a touch and flare it out here. And then at the same time, let's come down to the base of this thing. Look how quickly I'm working with this thing. I'm not worried about being perfection. Back to center line again. The gesture, back to that again. And now let's put something else on top of this thing. Now come out of that with it 9 degrees and come pick up on top of that. Then we get a little control system of some sort. Then you come back down where the center line is. And again, notice, one of the things about a gesture that's interesting too is this. When you have the gesture set, one of the things that within it is very interesting to kind of, and I want to focus in, and I'll refer to it throughout the process today. When you go through the gesturally side of things, always come back to where that center line is. And again, the axis. The axis is vertical, but the axis but the center line will give you the contours of the form itself. So there's a threefold process coming together to create success in your sketches. Number one, it's a gesture, being very lucid and quick. Number two, the center line phenomenon. And number three, the axis, if it's required. And again, that axis is going to be vertical, in some cases horizontal, but they'll key into certain things and give you some process work to make this stuff really exciting. So let's go back in a little bit of tone here. Go back in real quick, put a little bit of magic to this thing, a little contrast work. Get that shadow across that surface, run that on top, run that through just a bit. Put a little bit of highlight here where the light source is coming from. And underneath, a little bit of shadow here. Notice, real quick contour. Run back in, just really rapid, quick little surface work here. Just kind of let you know where that surface is coming from and what's taking place. If you want a little bit darker underneath, great. Put a weight change on it here. Again, a little bit of horizon line. Again, more gesture. Look at the animation in that sketch. There's nothing there, but nonetheless, it has content to it. And above all else, one of the things I've noticed in a lot of young people's sketches, there's no spirit in it. I hope I can say this right. I hope I don't offend anybody. But the sketches look dead. Maybe because they're dead. I'm not sure. But I'm concerned about the fact that there's an animation and a life in a sketch. It should be honored. And it doesn't take much to do that. And I think the whole process is we get so caught up in trying to be perfect that you can't be perfect. It's just absolutely scary. It's not merited. And again, the whole concept of being in the design business is to liberate and then find out where the freedoms are and begin to really generate how you feel about what you see in your mind's eye. And again, to me, gesture, it starts there. It's a little more tone in this shadow here. It's kind of separate one from the other. And just putting enough content in this thing to give it some highlight. Notice, I'm going to do something else here. Notice a little bit of airspace right in there. I'm going to get back into some of these things as we go through the description here today. We work from side to side. Fatal. Do not work side to side. Always work, let that light, the reflected light, come around the corner and create the volume. If we go right to the edges, it flattens things right out. So that's another aspect of why gesture is so important. So let's go back in. There's one. Let's go back in again. Let's get to an axis. Let's put an axis down. There's my axis. Now I'm going to come right back at it, looking right at this thing. I'm going to come in through here, come down a little bit, put the vertical, and then pick a point of reference, put a little bit of spear in this thing, and from that spear, open this up. Take this thing into a peak. Again, notice, draw through it, pick up that same weight on this side, and then pick that same sweep right through it. Now, look how quickly that shape came together. Now, let's add something else to it. Let's take this whole upper piece and add a little bit more barrel to it. There it is. Same process again. Notice, maybe you change the character. Maybe this thing has more of a dart in through here. So we take that secondary line and run that on through. And again, with light source coming into play, over here, again, tone. Notice a little bit of white space in there. That's where the reflected light is coming from. Down to the surface. Follow the contours into the reflected light, into the contours. Right down the line. Again, notice airspace. Gives a lot more breathing ability here. Just kind of around here. Let's let that go. Now, over here, hit the edge, come inboard, reflected light, and then just give that some gesture. Let's get that thing down. Maybe a bit of a surface change. There it is there. No need. Go any further. Draw through it. Take that same process through on the other side. That's fine. You can go that route. Just run it right through. Keep it nice and lucid. If it's darker, a stronger peak. Let's come back to the center line, the axis, and just put a little more tone to it, and just break it up from there, and then animate the side. Again, notice this. Come inboard, and then come inboard again. Just walk through it. Again, over on this side, a little more animation. That means nothing. It just gives it some character or some spirit in the sketch itself. Let's come back in again. Hit it again. A little deeper. One more pass. Again, really, really careful. Notice how really strict I am here. Boy, I'm just making sure I'm inside those lines. No, be a Toyota. Get outside the lines. Just move away from it all and not be fearful of making mistakes. Again, another gesture. Let's put a sweep down. A little bit of a sweep. There it is. Let's change it. Let's roll it back just enough. Just thin that down. Again, real quick. Let's break it open. And then break it open again. Stop it. Just shy. Come back to the design line. Create that cavity back in there. Come back in again. Again, notice. Let's come back in. Let's pick this shadow up here. There's a break. There it is there. There it is there. If the design line comes around here and does that, that can come up. Light source again. Notice dark. Hit it again. Come out of that and let it flow right into that area here. That design line here. Facet, break line here, break line. If you want to take that right through, wonderful. If there's a texture change in there, change the pace. Look at that, just a little bit of sweep change. And we're working right. That changed the entire character of this form. Didn't take much. We just hit it. And it's got some melody to it. Again, let's go back in through here. Let's take this thing. Give it a bit of texture. Notice it gets lighter. So I come down the line here. And down the base of the form, there it is. Now, as that line comes forward, let's put that seam line in there very strongly. Again, seam line here, strong, and then lose it into the radius. What's nice too, it's just flare the sketch. Looks like it's done in about 10 seconds. Just a nice, simple little bit of wafer here. Let's kind of put that some fluting down at the bottom of this thing. Section, 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 section. Little things like that make a huge difference. Let's go back in here one more time. The more shadow. Out to light, and let's curl that light source back in there. Yeah, it's going to cheat this beauty. And there it is. Very simple, very quick gesture. Highlight, the highlight, reflected light on the backside. Look how simple that sketch is. Hopefully that can be just a read for you. So let's go back in through here. Let's add another one down here. Let's go back and let's change the gesture here. this, this. Now again, coming over here, interesting. There's my center line right there. I'm going to follow that through. I'm going to come back in, roll this in, roll this in. Come back out, flare the shape out. Again, from there, draw through it, flare it out again, and then begin to put the base together. Now, there it is. Look how loose that sketch is. Nice, just fun stuff. Now, let's go back in through here. Let's make some serious. Now, again, center line rolls in through here. It's going to come down through here. There's my center line, or contour line. And there's my axis. Those two working together so that all three pieces, again, are really telegraphing the power of these sketches. Gesture it first. Find where the gesture is. Find the center line, and then come back to the axis and work around that axis. That helps me get this. It'll also get me this. I can make the change in pace in here, cut that back in. There's some neat stuff with it. I can come back in through here again. I can come back up on top here, add that to it, come back up on top again, and then just put that same surface, and then all of a sudden, again, let's get this in place, tone it. Come back to it here real quickly. Again, light source, shadow, secondary tone, run it through. Again, light source out here. Show me where the light source is. Don't be afraid to use those guys. I call them twinklers. And shadow, back to gesture, up on top. Again, from here, notice, come inboard, cast that shadow on that guy, on that cap, and let it do that. Simple. Back into that, back into that, back into the base. Again, animation, back to gesture. They mean nothing in the essence of the sketch, but when you put them all together, it gives a character, spirit. I mean, there's a huge difference in putting those pieces together. The lines are not my friend. Boy, you got that right, Shadow. Good job. Really good job there. Let me do this. Let's try a couple here. I've got a couple of time moments here. Let's try it. Let's put a little bit of Copic to this stuff here. If I come back in and put a little bit of value to this stuff. Now, same thing. I'm going to really focus in on gesture. Don't forget the fact you're being very animated. You're not being stiff or rigid. You're putting your emotion in your sketches, which means a huge difference. So let's go back in through here, and with a couple of passes, let's see what this thing does. What's nice about that Winsor Newton piece too, you can come right back in here and work over the ink, and it doesn't bleed on you. Again, notice there it is. 1, 2, 3. Bam, you're done. Beautiful. Super. Right there it is. Look how quick that comes together. Same thing here. Let's get this guy. Let's get that tone in through here. Into light source. Let's move away from light source. Into the shape, and animate it. Follow the form. Bring it in, and just gesture into shadow. Look at how quickly that thing comes together. You've got volume in an instant. Oops, I moved that up so we can see what we're after. Same with this guy. Let's turn it sideways just for a moment here. Let's find that shadow where it is. Let's kind of bring that right on through. Separate. Notice, not to the edge. Highlight. Let that little piece work right in there. And a little bit of highlight. I'll take that into the area where the texture change is. Take it over here. Bring that on through. Same thing here. There. Up, in, done. There it is. Your sketches become much more powerful in terms of what people see. The shapes are there, the energy's there, but now the surfaces aren't. So does gesture dictate surface? Yeah, it does. We've seen every one of these guys by being much more gesture-y. You're creating monumental shapes in an instant. It doesn't take an hour and a half to do a sketch. Each one of these sketches, probably what, maybe 5 or 10 seconds, hopefully. If not, I failed. Period. So again, let's get this guy. Very simple touches. Tone, into tone, into tone, in one simple pass. With those 3 lines, 4 lines, we've described that shape. No more, no less. That's all it takes. That's the beauty of the whole, that's the magic of gesture. The magic is you're not forcing it. You're not trying to dictate it. You're not in control of it. Creativity is. And that's what we should be looking at all the way through here. Let's kind of change some moving on here. Let's go back in here. Just another sketch. Nice big circle. Start there. Now, where's my center line on that thing? Well, we're going to create it. We're going to come back through here, the axis. We're going to come back through the vertical axis, and that's where my center line is. That one right there is my center line, period. Here's my axis. It falls in line with it. Once I have that, again, I come out, again, across, take that same distance in through here, peek it again, baby, run that through, draw through it, pick up that same weight on the other side, pick your tangent, and then run that tangent right through, bam, there it is. Second shape, there it is. Now let's come back in and do this. Let's reverse it. Again, real quick, inside the form, into a flat, and into another flat. We change the shape. Let's take that line and crown it out, and let's do something else. Let's put this in place. Let's go recess. Let's do the R2-D2. There it is. Antennae. And again, notice light source from over here. Cast that shadow across that form, doing the light. Let's do this. Let's get that shadow in through here. Negative, negative, negative. Release it. Negative, release it. If it's a real solid lens in here, great. Come right back in and just keep hitting it. Notice, inside again, a little bit of reflected light, that little white space right there. Come back and hit the lens. Then lose it. That shadow there is a lip shadow on the lens itself. That's how we're getting that. While you're at it, and I might well just say this while I'm at it, I hope this makes sense. What gesture also does is indicate where the separations are, where lights and darks are. How to let paper go through, light the dark, light the dark, light the dark. So you don't fill it all in, and that gives it more animation, and then it really personifies the gesture. Let me turn this for a moment here. Let's get a little more 7 here. Let's get this shape to work. Bring it around. Since it's a round surface in there, guess what? That shadow's going to bend. So is this. Next thing you know, you're going to highlight right there. Bam, right through it. Again, underneath, a little bit of space. Hit it again. Move that. Get my hands out of the way. There we go. Hit it again. Take that same form into it. Animate it. Let the viewer know there's a recess in there. So take that corner. Just cast a shadow inside that. All right, let's get this straightened up here. Just cast a shadow inside there. Take it back to that corner. Again, that tells me where my light source is. Same thing in through here. Into shadow. That comes back. That comes back. Let's finish this up on top here. Animate it around here. Look how I can add things onto that form and still make it work and function nicely here. Let's kind of put a little highlight through this and run that through. Let's take this now and cast that sphere onto that curvilinear surface. It's going to look like that. Again, more animation in the lower. And lo and behold, let's take our friendly number 2. Let's tone it in. It's a spear. Make it a spear. Notice underneath. Bing. Bing. Into recess. Into form. Reinforce. 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 Right down that shape. And if you wanted to, since it's a peak in there, you can come right back and almost walk that whole surface right out. And come back and hit it again. Let's go back to this just for a moment. Let's go back and just get this a little bit crisper. I want you to notice something when I put this little tone in place here. See that area right there? That's the reflection of this lower piece right here being reflected back into the sphere itself. That's what gesture does. It teaches you the really, really beautiful geometry of surface and how it operates to function. It tells us where to not place the emphasis and keep things open. It's a real simple set of passes here. Making sense so far, hopefully? Hope. So let me move along here. This is page 1. Let's see if we can get a couple more pieces in here. We kind of move along here with this stuff as we go. Now let's go here with another shape. Let's just go to a pure elevation here. Let's just do this. That, like this. I'm going to get that. Run that on through. Just again, let's get the basic form in there first. Nice simple gesture. There it is there. Let's take that thing back. Let's move that on through. Let's move that on through. Let's create another ledge up on top. Put a little bit of breaker on it and cut this back in. Again, up on top, put a dome on this thing. There it is. Let's do that. Let's take that hard line right there and come back in and just bring the scallop. No more, no less. Let's kind of put a little bit of tone in this thing. Oh, pardon me here. You good? Yeah. Let's put a little bit of tone in this thing. This tells me that this is basically a cylindrical form, which does that. Which on cap, let's kind of change gears here and get that shadow to work just a bit. Same thing up on top, a little bit of separation. Again, same process up on top here. Let's take that through. And again, up on top, little by little, build this shape. Let's go back and create another secondary wall. Let's do this. Again, real quick. So put some grips in this beauty. Real quick, down to a resolve. Let's take that and put a little bit of a base on it. Let's come back down through the shape and just kind of work through it. Let's put this in shadow again. Light source. More shadow underneath those spears. Scripts are. And let's see if we can get this thing done in about 2 or 3 lines. Let's go back to that same number 2 marker. Let's get that down here. Light into light. Bang, done. Insert change. A little bit of a tone change. There it is there. Tone that in. A little more animation here. One there and there. And guess what? We're home. Base. There it is. No more, no less. You're just really highlighting some of the forms you're dealing with here. Absolutely magnificent sketches. I mean, not sketches aren't, but the process is really unique to me. It keeps us fresh. It's activating things. It's not a matter of being static with all this stuff we're dealing with here. So let's go back and do this. Not working on any given product, just putting gestures together, or sketch format. Again, same process here. Put a tone in this guy, up, into the highlight, into the shadow, out of the form, accent break. Maybe there's a texture change up on top here. If that's the case, we just change the proportion of that guy. Put a shadow on the inside here. Again, form. And just to make that a little bit more definitive, let's change gears and go a little deeper with this guy. Let's change it so it's definitely got a different color character to it. More shadow in here. Around the bend and then lose it. Same thing through here, into shadow. There it is. You know how simple that sketch is. That hopefully begins to read. Again, the gesture of this whole process is extremely powerful stuff, gang. No question, no hands down at all. So, we're going to go there. Let's go back here again. You just can't beat good old-fashioned drawing. That's what it all comes down to, folks. All comes down to that. Drawing through it, being quick in gesture. Now flare this out, flare that out. Let's take that back. A little negative cavity in there. That's where got a little bit of a recess. Yep. Get back on screen. There we are. Right down the line here. Let's make this a recess. Notice I'm staying away from the edge to give it that illusion of roundness. Back into the center line. On the surface again. Let's do something else here. Let's put a little bit of texture change in this thing. Highlight, surface change. Highlight, run that right through. Bam, that's done. Let's get the broad pitch out here. Let's get the shadow on this side. Run that through. Let's take this surface and make it just kind of come in and just do some neat stuff for us here. Again, real quick, very lucid. Pick up the highlight. Let's get that secondary highlight to run through there. Let's get this shape to kind of work through a little bit more clearly. Let's kind of get that down, slow it down just a bit. Get the surface in place here. Let's finish off the complement here. By coming back in, pardon me as I rotate this guy, where the highlight is, run that through. Where the highlight is, run that through. And again, underneath this thing, leave that where it is. Come back in again with this. Let's highlight that. Let's put that edge in place. Let's give this a little bit of a character change here. A bit of a texture change. And in little things like that, making a huge difference in the overall presence of the sketch. Again, down below, a bit of shadow. Not up in here. I don't know if I've got one. Yeah, I've got it right here. You can come back in and pick up a little bit of highlight on this thing. And again, same with the secondary piece. A little bit of texture break in there. Done. That's it. You've got it. So let's move along here. Making sense, hopefully? So far, so good, man. This is fun stuff. Again, I want to really emphasize today the whole concept of why gesture becomes such a premier force in getting down to animating your sketch, understanding the shape, being a lot more fluid and developing new things very quickly and very rapidly makes a huge, huge difference. It also relies on a center line and an axis. When you get that all squared away, you're home. Let's go up on top here. Axis, vertical. Be very honest with it. Come right through it. Come right through it. Now we're going to work on center line. I'm going to put the base down here. Let's open that up. Change it. Draw through it. Draw through it. Now, where's my center line? Very simple. I'm going to cut a line through here. And I'm going to tell myself that this is it. Now the other axis is this. There's my center. So I follow that right on through. I'm going to take that line right on through. This now becomes my center line. It's there. And it's there. And it comes back and breaks into here. And I come right back down through here. And come off this shape, that tangent. And I get this thing to kind of roll in through here. And I come right back again, draw through this. That's where that other piece is going to end up, right there. So there it is. That told me where that form was going to be generate here. Again, very simply put, let's go back in and hit a little bit of the tone work. We'll kind of come back in and regroup it. Ready? Surface. Surface. Texture change. Drawing right through it first. Lay that in. Just put a nice solid form in there. Take it over the top. Take this over the top. Animate it. Animate it again. Let's make that matter here. There it is. Let's get that all put together. Let's put that break line right in through there. Let's put that break line right in through there. Following the contours. Once again. Making sure that that reads. Let's come back in and change a little bit of texture here. A bit of a tone change. And even inside that, animate that. A little bit of reflected light. Same thing here. To the edge. And again. up, reflected light, back in again, surface, definition, shadow, and again, last but not least, add some of that to it. And there again, you've got a very quick little gesturely sketch, and you can add more detail in terms of surface and form to it, where the light source is coming from. But look again how simple those value studies are, and yet hopefully they're just jumping off the page and they've got life and animation behind them. I think that to me is a secret to the whole process. It comes down to that, understanding what the gesture does, also what's taking place in terms of, boy, really being unique in terms of being much more free and putting the surfaces together and not being afraid to make mistakes. Go back in and recaution the whole thing, and we take it from there. So let me do here. Let's do this. Axis, center. We're going to build that up. We're going to hourglass it. Take that in and taper it. Take that in and taper it. Open it up just a bit. Come back down through it. Flare it open. Flare it open. Open it up here. Put a base on this thing. Open that up. Put the circle in place. Come back up on top. Chamfer it. Let's take off on this piece. Just forms. Nothing more, nothing less. Okay, let's take that shape right there, a little bit of a cavity in it, so that might look like that. Might have a little bit of a recess in it, so it's going to look like that. That's going to give me this. It's also going to give me this. Same process again. Working the volumetrics inside the gesture. Back up the shadow underneath here. Watching where that takes place. Come back in and getting that little conical form put together. Running that into that shape. That into that shape. Down below. Draw through this. Maybe it's ringed. Draw through it again. Detail, detail, detail. Again, same surface. And putting all that together, keeping it nice and simple. More animation, just to draw through the form. A little more tone down here to get it all put together. There it is. A little bit of a cast shadow on that thing. It's going to change the gesture just a little bit, get that to kind of roll for us. There it is there. Let's take that same marker, a little bit of surface to it, and we'll take it from there. Tone change, there it is, right through it, into the axis, shadow, into highlight, back in the surface. Bam, you're done. How simple those surfaces are. That's as easy as it gets. No difficulty whatsoever, gang. So I hope we begin to see what takes place when you move into this gesture theme of putting pieces together, how really rapid it is and how really gesturally it is, and again how really significant it is. It's just really interesting how it all comes together here, folks. So I think I'll go stop right there, and hopefully this has been of some impact to you and some help to you. As I said in the beginning of the stream, it's one of those situations where I've kept looking at this, working through the process, and there's an awful lot of sketches out there that become extremely stiff and rigid, and a lot of lacking in character. Not that these have great character, but there's a lot more freedom in them. They're much more animated and very interesting to put together. So hopefully it's been some help to you, to help you loosen up a little bit and let you see what gesture does. There was the first plate we did right there. It just kind of put some pieces together very quickly. Just a little ballpoint, or pardon me, Winsor Newton fine liner pen, and some tone surface with it. And then the second one was just a nice series of little, same process, changing shape, not really focusing on a product whatsoever, but just doing some neat stuff with it and letting the gesture kind of take us to where we need to be. So hope that's been of help to you. Thank you so much for tuning in today. And again, please take a look at my website, drcontrast.com. It's all new setup there. It's been really well done. It's got a lot more character to it now. We're adding things to the store and building that as we go. And if you have anything you want me to work on, please feel free to do so. Contact me at jim@drcontrast.com. Be happy to help you in any way I can. And again, it's just really, I'll be changing gears and subject matter from stream to stream. But again, I just felt today to go back into some basic fundamental sketch rendering techniques based on what I saw this week from a lot of young people that were just terrified to put an idea down on paper. Nothing worse than indecision, because it is a decision. Now you come back together again, looking at these sketches. So I hope you notice how quickly they went together. They're not great. They were never intended to be great. They're not perfect. They will never be perfect. But there's a character behind them, and that should come through in your sketches. Hopefully that'll work out well for you. Take care of yourself. Again, look at the website, drcontrast.com, and drop me a note, Jim at Dr. Contrast. If there's things you want me to work on to help you with, I'll be happy to do so. And let's take it from there. Wish you all the very best. And I also do this at the end of every stream because I think it's absolutely important to really get across. Never forget to dare to be great, because you are. Fantastic, gang. Have a great week. We'll see you next Wednesday. Thank you. Fantastic.